deformation of the head due to the pressure created to keep them in place, which can turn you into a Discord moderator. But here's how to avoid this problem. When you play, take your cat, then load it with 9mm bullets. After that, if the cow eats blueberries, could the milk come out purple? You see, milk is composed of 90% water. The rest is made up of lactose, fat, and protein, and this causes its white color. So if a cow eats 39mm bullets, it could become a Kalashnikov automatic rifle.
Start by making a small hole in the lips. This makes it easier to insert the first smaller ring. Once the wound has healed, the ring is removed and a larger one is inserted. This is repeated several times until the desired size is reached. In their beautiful culture, this is a sign of beauty and maturity. Generally, those with the largest rings are seen.
In ancient Egypt, women had to urinate in 2 different bags. One bag was filled with barley and the other with wheat. If either bag sprouted seedlings, the woman was carrying a baby. And additionally, if the barley seed sprouted first, it was a boy, whereas if the wheat sprouted first, it was a girl.
He threw a broken fridge down the mysterious hole, and even though he waited to hear if it hit the bottom, no sound ever came back up. A neighbor threw his dead dog down there, and a few days later, it was seen running through his garden. But living dogs refused to go near it. The owner of the property lowered 80,000 feet of fishing line, attaching weights to check the depth. He even added candy to the end. In case he was hitting water, the candy would dissolve. But it still never touched the bottom. Eventually, black vans showed up, and government agents seized his land, paying the man off and sending him to the other side of the world. And to this day, no one's been able to prove anything. They ram their antlers into each other, locking them together, and they can get stuck so tightly that they can't be pulled apart. The 2 deer twist and struggle, trying to break free, and this can last for days. Eventually, one will collapse from injuries and exhaustion, and the other is left dragging the body behind. To escape, it jerks and thrashes until the skull breaks free, leaving it stuck wearing the head and antlers like an unwanted trophy. A tiny nail is placed inside the drilled hole. Then it's glued shut and repainted. This makes one side of the die heavier, causing the opposite side to land face up more often, allowing you to cheat. Another method is heating the die slightly, with the number you want pointing upwards. As it cools down, the melted part settles unevenly, which changes its balance, making it more likely to land on your chosen number. And sometimes, certain sides of the die are shaved down to make them flatter. The flatter side doesn't roll as easily, making it land on the bottom with the number you want facing up. He slid down the inside of the support pipe after climbing to the top of a water slide in the dark. But it was too narrow for his body to move, and he became trapped inside. He screamed for help until someone finally heard him. Rescuers worked for hours to take apart the slide and reach him, hoping he was alive. But the man had suffocated inside the pipe and died. A doctor will make a cut where your ears connect to your head if they stick out really far. Through the opening, they'll fold the cartilage and stitch it in place. Then your ears are repositioned closer to your head, and tiny stitches are placed there to keep them from moving. But in rare cases, the stitches in the cartilage can push through the skin and break, causing your ears to pop back out. Her hand got stuck inside the Easy Bake Oven while it was still turned on, and the heating element inside burned her finger. She finally managed to pull it out, but the burn was so severe that doctors had to amputate her finger. Now this happened because the toy was redesigned, replacing the light bulb inside with an actual heating element. But after hundreds of children were injured, the oven was recalled.
Why do people in Qatar paint their roads blue? Well, in Qatar, roads can reach up to 60 degrees Celsius under the scorching sun, and the blue color absorbs less heat compared to traditional black asphalt, which can reach extremely high temperatures under the sun and sometimes even melt the soles of the shoes. This technique lowers the road temperature up to 20 degrees, enhancing pedestrian comfort in urban areas.
A woman found a finger in her chili at a Wendy's restaurant in 2005. The woman began yelling and telling everyone in the restaurant to stop eating because the food is contaminated. She also screaming at the staff and accusing them of tampering with the food. After the incident, the store immediately shuts down. They discard the chili but save the finger, which they place in the freezer. Then they call the police, who come to investigate. And the news started spreading rapidly on the internet, which caused a major public outrage and significant losses for Wendy's. Most people assumed it was a work accident gone wrong, but as investigators dug deeper, doubts emerged. It turned out that the finger didn't come from Wendy's at all. The woman received the finger from a friend and had planted it in the chili herself. She was hoping to sue the fast food chain for a big payout. She was eventually arrested by the police and sentenced to 9 years in prison, along with a $21.2 million fine payable to Wendy's.
He split his tongue in half with a laser, burning the flesh as it sliced through. Next, he filed his teeth into sharp points, and his entire body was tattooed with green scales, which took over 700 hours to complete. He even implanted bumps into his forehead, all without anesthetic. But the pain was so intense he vomited while having hallucinations, and his pointed teeth and split tongue made it hard to speak, meaning he had to go to therapy just to learn to talk again. You would be pinned flat on your back, with your arms and legs stretched out to each side. Then, a heavy wooden board would be placed across your chest and stomach. Large stones were slowly stacked onto the board, adding more and more weight. As the stones piled up, the pressure on your body increased, making breathing extremely difficult and painful. This continued for hours or even days until you agreed to plead guilty. And if you still refused, they would add enough weight to crush your chest inwards, slowly killing you. If you were crushed with a hydraulic press, would it be strong enough to press you into a tiny cube? Well, your body is mostly made of water, and water can't be compressed, so you would have to remove all of the fluids by drying out completely. Then you'd have to grind up your bones and organs into fine powder. Finally, you could crush it all together, turning an entire human into a dense little cube about the size of a football. If you swab the microbes off of your skin and drop them into a jar of flour and water, they'll start to eat the sugars inside the flour. And as they break it down, they release carbon dioxide gas. Over a few days, the mixture will bubble up as more and more gas is released. Next, add more flour and water, kneading it together until you have dough. And when you bake it, you'll have your very own sourdough using your body's natural yeast. The dog waited loyally for his owner to step off the train, and he did this every day for years. But one day, the man didn't return. You see, he had passed away at work, but there was no way for his dog to know. And for almost 10 years, he stayed at the station, waiting for his best friend to come home. Other passengers would feed him, and his story spread across Japan. But finally, he took his last breath, still waiting at the same spot. Later, a bronze statue was constructed in his honor, but it was melted down for ammunition in World War II. Left in the cold, she crawled into a dog kennel for warmth and ended up staying there for 5 years. During that time, she learned to bark, growl, and walk on all fours like her canine companions. By the time she was rescued, she had lost the ability to speak and would eat like a dog, lick herself, and even pant. Authorities struggled to rescue her as the dogs fiercely protected her, but they eventually lured the pack away with food. She was reintroduced to society but retained the animal behaviors.